Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about the skull of the horse, and in particular as it relates to artistic anatomy. It's very helpful to have a good understanding of where all the bone structure is. If you can get that, you'll have a fair amount of success in drawing the horse. So to begin with, up in this top portion up here, we have the frontal bone, and the frontal bone extends on down here, and then it develops into two bones. These two bones are the nasal bones of the horse. Then down below in here, we have the premaxilla and the maxilla. And as we get up into this area, we have the zygomatic bone that comes up through here. And the zygomatic bone comes underneath the orbit of the eye. And it will form up here and connect with the temporal bone and forms what is known as the zygomatic arch. So let me turn this just a little bit here so you can see. So this is the zygomatic bone all the way up through here. There's a suture line that runs through here. And then we have the temporal bone, and the temporal bone comes back here and connects. And just like with some of the other mammals we've discussed in the past, this is the zygomatic arch. This lower section here is the mandible. The part that sticks up here, this is the coronoid process, where we form the hinge joint back in here. This is the condyloid process, and this is all the mandible. When we get back, turn this again just a little bit to the front so we can see some of the teeth. So right in here, we have the incisors, then we have the canines, then we have the premolars, and back through here we have the molars. Little side note on of interest of the horse is that very few females actually have canine teeth. Generally, if you were to come across a skull that you found in the wild and it had canine teeth, the odds are it was probably a male. Something like only 20 to 25% of females will have any canines at all, and it's usually just a remnant of one. Not as maybe as pronounced and aggressive as this. Males tend to have probably another extra 4 or 5 sets of teeth than females, sometimes more or less. I think it's females tend to have, well, they definitely have less teeth than males. So if you come across a skull that has quite a few teeth, it's probably a male as well. So again, so we have the frontal bone here. We have the nasal bones. There's 2 of them. On the side here, we have the lacrimal bone. This section is the premaxilla and the maxilla. Then we have the zygomatic bone through here. We have the mandible. This large hole here, this is the infraorbital foramen. And then we have another hole down here. And this is the mental foramen. So we have the 2 foramen, the infraorbital, and again the mental. These are both areas allow for capillaries, nerve endings, and whatnot to come out and remain underneath the surface of the skin, but provide nerves, capillaries, blood, and so forth underneath the skin. So then if we turn this back just a little bit more here, where we have the zygomatic arch, and then we form here, it's the zygomatic bone and the temporal bone, and the temporal bone comes back into this area. And in this section, encasing the brain, is the parietal bones. There's one obviously on each side. And then the bony process in the back, this is the occipital portion of the skull. And right here is where the spinal column or the cervical vertebrae would connect to the backside of the skull of the horse into the occipital section. And so our first vertebrae that you would see would be the atlas. The second vertebrae then would be the axis, true of all the other mammals. Horse also has 7 cervical vertebrae, just like the majority of all mammals. So here's external auditory meatus, parietal bones. This whole section is the occipital bone. This is the zygomatic arch formed from the zygomatic bone and the temporal bone. This section of the jaw that comes through again, this is the coronoid process. This section of the bone that connects and forms the hinge joint is the condyloid process. Then we have, again, the mandible, and that is the general makeup of the skull of the horse.